Welcome to this week's 5 Minutes of Revelation, and today in those 5 minutes I want to encourage you to finally get rid of the fear that's still in your life and to step into fear-free living. See, because many of us have learned how to look tough on the outside, how to look like men and women of steel, that nothing can get to you, you aren't afraid of anything, yet deep inside there's fear. Deep inside you there's still big fears, and those fears torment you. They don't let you sleep well, and they destroy your life. Those fears destroy your life. And see, you shouldn't be afraid of anything in life. You shouldn't be afraid of small things, and you certainly shouldn't be afraid of death itself. You shouldn't be afraid of sickness, of trouble, of problems, of breakups. You shouldn't be afraid of anything. See, because fear, just like faith lets God come into your life and do good for you, so does fear give the enemy place in your life to steal, kill, and destroy. That's all he wants to do for you. He's not some nice guy that sometimes does something bad to you. No, he is really evil itself. He wants to steal from you, kill you, and destroy everything you have. But the only way he can do this is through fear. You need to first give him access into your life, because he can't get to you as long as you're in faith, as long as you're believing God, as long as you're moving forward strong in faith, and as long as you don't have fears in your life. That's why you shouldn't be afraid of anything. We can see how the devil tries to put fear on you to get into your life and destroy you. In the Bible there's many stories. Maybe you know the story of Nehemiah, where he tries to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem so they're finally living safe again, that no one can get to them. Yet their enemies tell themselves, well, if they rebuild the walls now, then we won't get in. So we'll try to get them in fear, because I know that if I get them in fear, they will stop rebuilding, they will stop moving forward, and they won't be safe anymore. So they try everything they can to get those people, to get Nehemiah into fear. Yet Nehemiah is saying, I'm not going to be afraid. Their threats can't get to me, because I'm believing God. I will rebuild this wall. I will rebuild this city, and we will live safe. So here we can see how the devil tries to get to him through fear. Yet Nehemiah is not letting fear in, and so nothing happens to him. He's not hurt or anything. But then again, we can see in Job how Job at one point is saying, my fears have come upon you. When the devil comes in and destroys his life, steals his kids, his family, everything he has, he's sitting there saying, my fears have come upon me. And we can see how he was afraid of his kids going the wrong way. He was afraid of all these things, and so he gave the devil place in his life to steal, kill, and destroy. Yet, thank God, that's not the end of the story, because at the end, Job turns around, repents, comes back to God, and God is right there to bless him again. As soon as Job releases faith, God is there to bless him, and he gives him more than twice as what he had before. Family, kids, riches. He gives him even more than what he had before, because now he turned to God and God was able to bless him. Or we can see with David and Goliath, that Goliath, all he did was put fear on the Israelites. All he did was stand there putting fear on the people. And because they were so afraid, no one dared to go and fight him. No one dared to go fight him. And so they were in bondage the whole time. But then David comes and says, well, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that doesn't have a covenant with my God? Because I know that my God is stronger, my God is bigger, and he will defeat this giant for me. I simply have to step out in faith. I simply have to run towards him, and God is going to do the rest. And then you see David come up fear-free, full of faith, and he simply defeats Goliath like he was nothing. As long as there's faith, nothing is too big for you, and nothing can overcome you. And that's why today I want to encourage you to get rid of the fear in your life. You might look tough to the outside, you might be a man of steel or a woman of steel from the outside, but if there's still fear inside you, you know. Maybe inside you're full of fear, you're afraid to step out, you're afraid to enjoy life, to do anything for God, you're simply afraid. And today I want to encourage you to get rid of this fear, because this fear is going to stop you from moving forward. It hinders you from stepping into the blessings of God, and it gives the devil place to destroy your life, to steal from you, and to kill everything you got. So get rid of it. 1 Peter 5:7 says, cast all your anxieties on Him, on Jesus, on God, because He cares for you. So whatever you have, whatever fears you have, cast it on God. Cast it on God. Come before Him. Admit that you have this fear, but then take this fear and cast it to God. Hand it over to God. Because only one person can care for you. Either you try to carry this care, to carry this fear yourself, and then God can't do anything for you, or you give it to God, and then now He can deal with it and He can turn it into blessing. But as long as you're afraid, God doesn't have this fear of yours, so He can't do anything about it. So hand it over to God, let go of this fear in your life, and watch God bless you, because as soon as that fear is gone, there's room for faith and room for blessing. And then verse 8 says, be alert and sober-minded. That means that once you've given this fear to God, once you hand it over, it doesn't mean that it won't ever come back to you again. Maybe you just handed this fear over to God, you feel good for 1 minute, and the next minute you're afraid again, this fear comes back to you. But then be alert and be sober-minded to recognize it right away and to get rid of it again. And if it comes again the next minute, then cast it down again and release your faith. Maybe it's even best to write down the time, the date, the moment, the circumstance, whatever it is, that you cast those cares onto God. And you can always remember this time as the time that you got rid of this fear. So whenever this fear tries to come back on you again, you can go back to that moment and say, wait a minute, check this out. I've cast my fear on God already. There's no fear in my life, so I refuse to let you in. I rebuke you in Jesus' name, and I am still fear-free. And if fear comes on you the next minute again, you can do the same thing again. You can say, oh, wait a minute, fear, you're not coming on me. I'm not going to be afraid. I choose to believe, because you can choose to fear just like you can choose to believe. It's a choice. I choose to believe God. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. You don't have place in my life. I live fear-free and I live in faith. Confess this over yourself, and whenever fear comes onto you, rebuke it and get rid of it. No matter if it's a big fear, like a fear of death maybe, or if it's just something small that you're afraid of, whatever it is, don't give this fear place in your life. Get rid of it today, cast it out, and truly become a strong man, a strong woman of God that's living fear-free, that's not afraid to go after their goals, that's not afraid to step into the blessing that God has for them, that's not afraid to go after the calling that God placed on their life. Step out and be fear-free today. You don't need to live in fear a moment longer. Cast it on God and enjoy the blessed life. Take this with you, be blessed by that. Don't forget to read your chapter a day, and I'll see you again next week.